I'm Shane Thomas, and this is Analysing Doctor Who. I'm joined today by Jen Allen and Rick Tatro, and we are here to analyse The Well. And if you have any thoughts on our upcoming thoughts or anything else Doctor Who based, you can email at analysingdoctorwho@gmail.com. So if we just start with the episode rating first, please. Jen, would you give this out of 10?
A 9.
Okay, Rick, what are you giving this?
8.
I'm also giving it a 9. So, Rick, what from this is your favourite part of the episode?
Tipping my hand about another question. Everything that okay, is it Keelan or Queelan?
Keelan, apparently.
I looked up how to pronounce her name, and there's 2 different ways, and I wasn't sure which one was the right one.
I've seen an interview of her where she says Keelan.
How's it going? My name's Keelan Dunn, and I am an actor.
She blew me away, and so anytime she had lines, I was wrapped. But especially, Davies does this a lot. And I'm not sure if I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing, but he creates these characters that we absolutely fall in love with, and then he kills them.
I think that's a thing, as in one of his things, without a doubt. I think it's one of his strengths. Yeah,
it's definitely a strength. Unlike the woman from the hotel whose name escapes me at the opening.
The Christmas episode, yeah, Steph DeWiley.
Yeah, pretty clear that we're not going to see Shaya again, but the way she took control of every scene she was in, those were my favorite moments of the show.
And you get a little bit of backstory with her. She kind of looks to save life first, even if it comes at the cost of her own. That's kind of her prime directive, which you feel from the start, and obviously it does get paid off. That is a Russell thing, and not just credit to his writing, of course, but also the casting. You have to cast that well. You have to cast an actor that will leave an imprint on you. You get to know them and then miss them. Okay, so Jen, what was your favourite part of this?
In general, just how the rapport between all of the troopers, it felt realistic, if that makes any sense for a science fiction show. I tend to really enjoy when they someone either knows how to write military or knows someone who has been in the military. And I could definitely tell, because it was 2 writers who did this episode, at least one of them, either was one or the other. They either were in the military or knew about someone who, the rapport that happens in the military. They felt, I don't want to say lived in specifically, but they felt like an actual military unit that had known each other for a while and had a rapport with each other, and them going in, they trusted each other, and there's my cat. And they felt like an actual unit, and not just actors playing the parts. Especially Shaya. I mean, she was amazing, of course, and it was much better than that character from the first episode. We're like, I need you for 5 minutes. Hi, bye. Okay.
Oh, Sasha 55.
Yeah. So yeah, Kaylin. I loved her, and we'll get to Alice shortly, but she was also a highlight, and the fact that they handled her the way she is and who the actress is with care. And I'll explain it more when we get to talking specifically about Alice. But yeah, I specifically like the characterizations in this.
It's actually interesting you point about how you like them as a unit. Have either of you seen Doctor Who Unleashed yet?
I did. Since you finally told me about those, I started.
They had the unit, as in all the actors, go on kind of a very brief kind of military crash course, not to do actual proper military exercises, but stuff of marching in line, and it was almost to just get them to work together and just to get them to be familiar with one another. And that's probably then been borne out, Jen, what you're saying about how they interacted. I forget which character it is, but one of the troopers dies. I was in unit with a brother. That line just gives you a backstory of they're not just a group of disparate, discrete individuals been stuck in a costume, but yeah, they do kind of feel a little bit more three-dimensional right now. If I'll go to the stuff I was going to mention about some of the military depictions, particularly with Trooper 1, the mutinous one, played by Christopher Chang.
Cassio? Is that Cassio? Is his real name?
Yes, Cassio. Yeah. Yes, that's right. It's interesting how they're depicted here, because they don't arrive, despite Shaya, they don't arrive with the intention of saving life. And you almost get the idea that if it wasn't for Shaya leading them, these lot would be truly barbaric in how they handled stuff. Trooper 1 immediately and very eagerly gives that shoot to kill instruction. At one point he says, we should have nuked this whole site from orbit. And the depiction of, not the whole unit, but that character in particular, it's as if he joined the military as a way to permissively hurt others. He's looking for any reason to cause damage.
Which is, yeah, and that's a very typical stereotype, unfortunately.
It is. I mean, he acts like he's in charge at times, even before he actually is. I mean, the only thing that stops him killing Alice once he takes charge is self-interest. It was like, why don't we just start with you? And she's like, well, if you do that, then the monster's going to go at you. And that's the only thing that stops him killing her. And I found it interesting that the troopers, as the episode progresses, the troopers don't really know what they're doing. They are making it up as they go along. But anyone who dissents or says, maybe in this way, they immediately threaten them. And they can do this because they've got guns. I have a gun, so no one can tell me shit. If you try and talk to me, I'll shoot you in the head. And it also obviously contrasts nicely with the Doctor, who hates the use of guns. The use of guns is in terms of fiction, a very American way of solving things. It's not a very British way of solving things, which goes back to society. And this isn't kind of a pro or anti-Second Amendment thing, but it is just a fact there's a lot more guns in your country than there are over here. But it stands to reason that a British writer on a British show will not immediately default to, well, get a gun to solve this, where normally in American fiction it is get a gun. You stop the bad guy with a gun. And this isn't even a value judgment. This is more just a cultural difference between the two countries. And one thing I thought was interesting was because Trooper 1, Cassio, has a very instant dislike towards the Doctor. And I wondered if this was triggered. There's maybe some underlying homophobia here. When the Doctor very early on, I think he and Billin take the spacesuits off.
Calls them babes and
Calls them babes and then hun, yeah.
And it's like, it's not appropriate to call me babes. And the Doctor knows what he's doing. He says, he went, oh, okay, hun, which is a great line. That kind of, I'm not having a man, or at least someone presenting as a man, speak to me in that way. I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable with it. And now this slur is telling me what to do. That felt underlying behaviour. Again, that's good writing, good acting, and well constructed from everyone. I found that was kind of just hanging in the air, as well as the general air of kind of resentfulness and paranoia that develops throughout the story. So my favourite part of this, I really struggled to single out one, is the "it's not me" scene. When they're about to escape, first group have left in the airlock and the rest of them are there, and they realise the unspecified monster is in there with them. And they are trying to figure out whose back has it leapt onto. And all of them, one by one, are like, well, it's not me, and it's not me. And there's a gradual sense of terror as you go around the four characters. It's shot really well because the four of them are shot in single shots. So you're cutting between them individually. You don't see like two of them in the same shot, 3 or 4 of them in the same shot.
And that was definitely one of the better scenes that Verda pulled off. I mean, she's just stiff, and she just, like, I can't move, and I'm afraid to move, and that was a powerful moment for her as an actress, just her being terrified to the degree that she did in that scene. It was wonderful.
I thought her performance in this scene was magnificent. One of the best bits of acting I've seen in in a while, because she didn't say anything for a while. The rest of them are talking. But we keep cutting back to her, and it's that moment of realization. It's horror realization. It's maybe not, maybe I got lucky, but you haven't got lucky, and you're trying to reconcile that I'm fucked. That moment reconciling I'm fucked, and there's part of it's like, maybe can I get away with it if I just stay quiet? She communicates so much in not a lot of time. It's tremendous acting. I like the episode. This scene just builds and builds until it feels almost suffocating and inescapable, which is the situation these characters are in. Now, I knew, it's maybe a slight digression, did you know something big was happening in this episode? Because some people did.
No.
That's good. That's good. There were some people that had it totally spoiled. I'm glad that it wasn't for me. I think that helped me enjoy the episode. But I did know something big was coming. Russell did say, yeah, you maybe want to make sure you're watching this one soon as. He said this with 2 episodes this series, and he said this about episode 3. So I was kind of bracing myself, and my word, the spoiler minefield the past Thursday and Friday, it was you could barely step anywhere without stepping on a spoiler. So I knew something big was happening, but I didn't know what. And in that moment, and I'm thinking what it might be, and I thought, Belinda's going to die. I think Belinda's going to die. And in that moment, I'm like, oh God, Belinda's dying, isn't she? No, she didn't. And I'm glad she did. I wasn't wishing her to die. But I was like, oh, that would be something huge. And there also has been a trend just television, quite big budget television recently over the past few years, of the big thing doesn't happen at the end. Usually we've all watched enough TV that we understand how these things build over the course of a series. But because of that, and because understandably we're kind of used to it, they know we know how to watch TV. So now they're like, okay, we've got to put this in episode 4, episode 2 or episode 6. I'm not going to say what shows, but I can think of at least 2 off the top of my head in the past 5 years that dropped something huge a lot earlier than you were expecting. And that's what I had braced myself for in this. And the way it was done, I don't think I was out of pocket thinking that, oh God, is Belinda going to die here? But even then she didn't. I didn't feel cheated. Anyway, I wasn't. What I also love about this scene as well, it's a space, and this goes back to that camera shots of the 4 singles. There has been a lot of, squabbling between them, but those 4 have generally had something of a bond. There's good solidarity between them. And in that moment, though, it does become a little bit more of a rather you than me. The monster is almost like a contaminant. It's almost like you're locked in with some virus of some kind, and you're like, well, who's got it? And I love how Mo, the other trooper, the one we see right at the end, she says, like, it's not me. And she says twice, it's not me. And the second time, she says it a lot more panicky, a bit more desperate the second time. And I say a theory, I think it's actually probably quite true, and I missed this at the time. But in terms of the monster, there isn't just one monster, or this monster has an ability to split itself, like almost bi-generate, because I missed at the time, it's now been pointed out online, that when the first lot leave, Alice and the other troopers leave, and Alice says thank you to the doctor, there's 3 of them in that lift, in that elevator. Next to him it says people in airlock, 4. It says there's 4 people in there, even though we can only see 3.
Yeah, when I initially saw that only 6 people could be in there, I was like, that's going to be prevalent later, I bet.
Yeah, Chekhov's number, without any doubt. Last point is, it's more almost a biblical reference, because maybe the doctor's to blame for all this, because they're running and the doctor stops, because he's like, I have to see it. And he turns and looks back and then runs again. That delaying may have just given the monster enough time to get on board with them. It actually reminds me of the Bible story of Lot's wife, where I believe Sodom and Gomorrah is being destroyed. And
pillar of salt.
Yeah, exactly that story where it's like, you run and you don't turn back. If you turn back and look at the carnage, you will turn into a pillar of salt, and Lot's wife looks back. And I immediately thought of that you stopped and looked back. You should have just kept fucking running. If we go now, Jen, to your least favourite part of this episode.
Okay, so to let the cat out of the bag, this is a direct sequel to a 10th Doctor episode called Midnight. It was during his last season, his last regular season anyway, and in that particular episode, which is one of my absolute favorite episodes of 10th's tenure, it is essentially a bottle episode where the creature in particular was possessing, it was the guests or the passengers on a shuttle, specifically the scene where it possesses Skye, who was played by the amazing Leslie Sharp, and she was repeating what everybody was saying.
Skye? Skye? Are you alright?
Are you alright?
Are you hurt?
Are you hurt?
You don't have to talk.
You don't have to talk.
I'm trying to help.
I'm trying to help.
My name's the Doctor.
My name's the Doctor.
Okay, can you stop?
Okay, can you stop?
I'd like you to stop.
I'd like you to stop.
Why is she doing that?
Why is she doing that?
She's gone mad.
She's gone mad.
Stop it.
Stop it.
I said stop it.
I said stop it.
I don't think she can.
I don't think she
All right,
can.
now stop it. This isn't
All right,
funny.
now stop it. This isn't funny.
Shh.
All of you.
My name's Jethro.
My name's Jethro.
Jethro, leave it. Just shut
Jethro,
up.
leave it. Just shut up.
That really stuck with me. It was just a brilliant bit of dialogue. And I was expecting in this episode, since this is a direct sequel to that, as we learn later in this episode, I was expecting that to be a factor, and it never happened. They didn't explain it in any way, shape, or form why this creature wasn't possessing anyone, except they kind of explained it as far as Alice is concerned. But it just kept sitting behind everyone's backs. It didn't actually possess anybody, which was what, as soon as they explained, yeah, this is the creature from Midnight, I'm like, I was waiting for that to happen, and it never happened. It was kind of a letdown.
So I actually went back this morning and watched Midnight. It's amazing. It's an incredible episode. I really need to find 6 months out of my life to rewatch everything. You know, I never had that disconnect because it's been 400,000 years, so I didn't expect the creature to be the same from one episode to the next, because the explanation of 400 millennia is sufficient for any changes to have happened.
Yeah, and the doctor said, I think it's learning, which was actually what it did in Midnight as well. I can understand but that's the thing you do, you're not doing the thing you do. I didn't mind because it was, as long as what it was doing was compelling and compellingly perilous and eerie enough, then I don't kind of need any massive backstory. The one thing I definitely think is a fair point, Jen, is the Doctor says, obviously, I've been here before. The Doctor realises what this is. And at no point is there a mention of what it did last time. You almost think the Doctor said something like, hold on, don't talk to it. You think the Doctor's almost waiting for it to start copying. And that didn't come up at all. So, yeah, Rick, we'll come to your least favourite part of this episode.
Okay, and this is the reason why I gave it an 8 instead of a 9. Because this is, y'all are absolutely right. This is a very solid episode. My biggest problem with it is the aliens references right down to nuke the site from orbit, because they've done this before with the Christmas special where there were the alien eggs and stuff. Once is an homage, twice is kind of ripping off. And while I love this episode, it went back to the well one too many times, and I don't think it needed that. Right down to the set design was very aliens, and the whole thing was very LV-426 and Hadley's Hope and all of that stuff. And I think this was a strong enough story and a strong enough script and a goddamn strong enough cast. They didn't need to use aliens as a crutch to hold this thing up. It was better than that. And that's the only reason I didn't give it like a 9 or a 10.
I didn't really notice those references as much as you, but I can't actually disagree with you at all on them. And is it a little bit of, don't show me the version of something that was a better version of this? Is that kind of part of the...
Kinda. I mean, but the thing is, if it had been just like one thing, maybe just the nuke the site from orbit, haha, get it, that's the line from Aliens. But the whole thing was... And I'm sure they were trying to do an homage. Or maybe it's just like, Russell T Davies is an old fucker like me, so he's like, no one's going to remember this movie, so I'm going to use these tropes. But to me, it diminished a little bit because it pulled me out of the story. Because I was going, that's an alien. Oh, I don't want to notice the references because we don't need them in this. Because this episode is doing just fine on its own without bringing Cameron into this.
I can definitely see what you're saying then. My least favourite part's very minor. But I have to say something. So it's not the scene itself, but when we mentioned Shia a bit already, when she sacrifices herself and throws herself down the well, and the Doctor sees, and the Doctor goes, no! I really, really, just in general, this isn't the Doctor Who thing, I really don't like in shows when we do that, when a character's about to die and the character who doesn't want the other character to die goes, no! It's just a cliche I've never, ever liked. It doesn't actually feel like a genuine reaction if something like that did happen. I'm not that I've ever been in these real life situations myself, but it doesn't feel like how a person would react. Probably be more a garbled noise rather than something like that. I've never liked that cliche when characters do that. Yes, we get it. It's a bad thing this person's dead.
Yeah, he only knew her for a day, if that.
The second time he's actually done it this series. Done it with Sasha 55 as well.
Well, now that you mention it, one thing that did bother me when Shia sacrificed herself was that, I was expecting her to run, it seemed pretty clear what she was going to do, even though the Doctor didn't twig until too late. But I was expecting her to just run into the room and just totally dive into the well. But then she stops, walks along the ridge, looks back at the Doctor, and then does a backflip or whatever, just falls backwards. That felt forced.
That felt Alien 3 to me, with Ripley doing the ST plunge at the end of Alien 3.
Yeah, I was expecting Shia to, because the way we come to know her character through the whole episode, once she decides on a course of action, she's going to do it. So stopping at the edge of the well, walking around it, kind of sauntering around, and then grinning, and then the ST plunge. I'd forgotten about that. Then just drops backwards. It just didn't feel right for the character.
It's a little bit soap opera melodrama, but I think it says how much I like this episode. This is my biggest criticism. Like, it didn't ruin the episode in any way.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's just like, can we find a maybe slightly more elegant way to have, like, character A show their horror at character B dying, rather than just going, no. Just in television. Just in television in general. And movies. It's all the time. Find another way to do it. That's my least favourite part. So one big thing that came from this was the character of Alice, the casting of Rose Ellis as Alice, and obviously the notion of specifically her deafness and how that's used in the storyline. I'm assuming that neither of you are familiar or very vaguely familiar of who the actor is, Rose Ellis, of who she
Never
is.
heard of her before.
I had seen pictures of her before, but I haven't seen anything she's in.
Quite famous over here. not anywhere else. This will be interesting as well because I have some familiarity with her. You two don't. So I'll come with you first, Rick, on your opinion of her, what they did with disability and deafness in the episode.
I was very impressed the minute she talked because, like, oh, this person's actually deaf. Cool.
Just for the record, for those who don't know, she is deaf. She's not playing deaf. She's a deaf actor.
I don't know that I've ever heard a hearing actor try to speak like a deaf person, but it was very clear when she started talking. It was like, that's legit. Which I was impressed with. I don't know that I thought the episode really did enough because it took a long time for somebody to go, oh, you couldn't hear it, so you were unaffected, but everybody else could hear it and they weren't necessarily affected either. So I don't know that it was particularly well used, but I think she was amazing. She did a great job. I never once didn't buy her character. I'm just not sure that the episode itself did enough with her character to, not to justify. They set up something I don't think they totally followed through on.
If I come to you, Jen, on the same issue.
Well, I actually know a bit of sign language, so it was nice to see her and Ncuti sign back and forth. That was really nice. Though I noticed British Sign Language is slightly different than American Sign Language. Like, the sign for doctor is different. But for the most part, I was able to follow along with what they were signing back and forth, even without the subtitles. It was great, because I know enough sign to be dangerous. But, and then the fact that they just automatically on their suits had the closed caption capability on all the suits so that she could understand and they could understand what she was saying. And then, of course, they tried to do the, and I can read lips. As far as her being a deaf actress, I caught that right away when she started talking as well. Having experience with Marlene Matlin for so many years, and she had to learn how to talk. And she talks very similar to Marlene Matlin, except with a British accent. I see they handled it for the most part with care, especially with the closed caption. They called it closed caption when I was looking at it. I was like, it's just translation. But it was handled pretty well. They didn't coddle her. They were just like, oh, she can't hear. Okay. And it became a plot point for the reason why she was still alive. She did amazing with acting like she was terrified as well, similar to Varda. And it was believable, and I think they did a really good job with the characterization of her, as well as how Rose portrayed said character. I was happy with what they did, and they didn't make her a stereotype.
Some of the things that they did incorporating Rose Ayling Ellis into the show, they did apparently a very basic deaf awareness course of certain things to do of, like, how to behave. So, like, when you're communicating with a deaf or hard of hearing person, make sure you're looking at them. Don't look away. Don't glance away, which is sometimes how hearing people, what we sometimes do in conversation. We sometimes don't look at the person we're speaking to. You have to actually look at them. You have to properly engage with them. With the script, Russell said apparently they showed Rose Ayling Ellis the script before they shot and basically had her note it. I would hope she's been paid for that. But they had her note it in terms of just certain things they maybe got wrong, certain things they need to improve on, certain maybe assumptions that they have wrong. Then there was a British Sign Language consultant on set as well to make sure kind of every I was dotted and T was crossed. And Ncuti makes some really interesting points about working with Rose Ayling Ellis. He says that she had such a difficult job because she has to both sign and speak, and also the natural work of an actor staying in character. And he said that is so much you have to carry in your head all at once. He said this was a different and richer acting experience for him. He said he's never connected with another actor like this. He said you have to be more intentional and committed in how you communicate with someone. So it's in a way a slightly richer experience if you're willing to do the work. Apparently Ncuti did a lot of work learning BSL himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was doing it at the end of shoots, at the end of the day, and then he went and did more. And he's doing a lot of work. He's carrying a lot of scenes, and then he would go off and learn British Sign Language, which I think is what helped him be quite smooth with the facility of the communication in the scenes. And I really liked how it's deployed, because I thought it was weaved into the episode with things of like the troopers demanding she speak.
No secret conversations, yeah.
Yeah, as if there's something like sneaky and surreptitious about, signing. And it's some kind of, occult language or something like that. Moments when she doesn't know what they're saying, and the moment when the doctor turns her back on her, and she says, and it's obviously double meaning this line, don't turn your back on me. And Russell did try and weave in what it can be like, him and Sharma Angel Wolfall. I understand she had a big input on this part of the script of what it's like being a deaf person day to day, because Rose Ailing Ellis is relatively, and obviously put relatively in like underline and bold type, is a relatively privileged deaf person in the UK. She has a measure of, probably for financial security, a measure of fame and notoriety in the UK. Most deaf people don't have that. And so if you're living day to day as a deaf person with people who aren't even willing to meet you even halfway, it shows the difficulties. And then you add a naturally stressful situation they're all in, it highlights the ableism even more so of what it's like being a deaf person. So you've done nothing wrong, you're understandably scared and want to go home, you want to go home to your kid, and people seem very unsympathetic and actually look at your deafness as a problem, as if you being deaf is making it harder for me, and almost maybe you're doing it on purpose, so yeah, you better speak and not sign, all that kind of stuff. And then the actual character itself, like Alice itself, she doesn't always give straight answers. She mentions everyone went mad, and she's not wrong, but she doesn't say why. We are genuinely, and this is part of why I loved this episode and the pacing and how it built, is we are honestly not sure how genuine she is. And for a good 2/3 of the episode, I'm like, does she know something that she's not telling us? And is there another shoe to drop? Is this character actually going to be the antagonist? As this is happening, I'm thinking in my head, should we be showing a deaf person as the antagonist? Is that a right way to portray a deafness on screen? But then again, why can't a deaf actor play an antagonist? Is that actually not actually kind of condescending and patronising at the same time? And I am literally debating this through my head as I'm being totally drawn into the episode. For people like us, at least, that's kind of the point. I think very similar to the way Russell used race and racism in Dot and Bubble, I think he wants to get us thinking about things like this. And Alice shows, and this is the performance, Alice shows so much fear and anxiety throughout, but it takes a while before we know why, so we're not exactly sure. And then you look how she's treated by other people, and you realise that when you're not sure about a person, it reveals something about you, how you then treat them. Are you going to be sympathetic? Are you going to treat them with suspicion? Are you going to treat them as a problem? Are you going to treat them with impatience? Often that says something about how you feel about them. It's like a Rorschach test. You treat them as you want to treat them because you don't know how they are yet. Will you treat them with a measure of sympathy or not? And she's not the monster, but she does know a bit about the monster, and she does take a while to reveal it. But it is understandable why. This is quite a complex character with a lot of nuance, which I really, really liked as part of one of the many strong aspects in this. It's notable that Belinda is the most compassionate one in the room towards Alice. And it also underscores why the Doctor always needs a human, and why he bobs with humans so much. Because the Doctor does mean well most of the time, but the Doctor does fuck up a couple of times. Does tell Belinda to be careful when turns the closed captioning tech off.
And that's something I wanted to bring up. That disappointed me because it's an important message. I'm just sad that Davies decided to have the Doctor do that, because he was the one who was acknowledging Alice and started with the sign language, and to have him be the one who stopped signing and turned away and went, be careful of her, and she goes, I can still read your lips, asshole. I would have preferred that to have had been anyone else but the Doctor, just because it kind of took some of his credibility away from how he had been dealing with Alice up to that point.
It's not a good moment for him at all. Why I didn't mind it is because it shows the Doctor's at times lack of humanity. The Doctor's not a human, and also that the Doctor is trying to almost slightly have it both ways, have his cake and eat it. He's trying to do the thing where he's trying to figure out the danger, and he doesn't know the danger at this point, so he doesn't know if it is Alice. But yes, you're right, treats her with total lack of humanity, and it's almost like he forgets himself. He forgets being humane, being kind. The Doctor tries to be kind all the time, but the Doctor does sometimes fail, and that is an unmitigated moment of personal failure for the character. Now, to be fair, he apologises immediately, but you're right. I mean, not to say there's no defence for it, but he fucked up, and sometimes we all fuck up. He fucked up. There's no excuse. He's done it 2 or 3 times in this series, by the way, where he's done something, gets called out, and he's like, oh yeah, my bad. Because yeah, you're right, the Doctor totally fucked up. And that's why I think he always needs a human. This is where Time Lords go if they're not around humans. And it's not an accident. I think that Belinda, the one human here, is the most compassionate.
And you know what? Some of the problems I've had with quote-unquote New Who, Eccleston on, is I grew up with doctors who were basically perfect. Who were like superhuman, super superior aliens who were just around to lead us poor humans into the right way. And modern Who does give the Doctor flaws, and I keep having trouble with that sometimes.
I mean, this is probably its own episode. That is an interesting thing you point out in some ways, because the show was written by fans who were probably in a similar position to you, Rick, of writing the character this way. It's a little bit like a child growing up and realizing their parents weren't perfect. Of like, oh, I thought they were these almost these infallible gods, and it's like, oh no, they were humans trying their best, sometimes getting it wrong. And also, just in TV, I think we're more inclined to look at characters, or you almost have to write characters with these conscious flaws, because it's a total fuck up from the Doctor without any doubt, and ultimately does the right thing in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, I also want, because there's that great line when the Doctor says listen, and it's like you think the Doctor's going to do what the Doctor does, and he says no, listen to Belinda. And I did wonder if that's part of the Doctor remembering last time he was here, when he tried to take charge and all he told him to shut the fuck up.
Oh, now you're being stupid. Just think about it. Could you actually take hold of someone and throw them out of that door?
Calling me a coward?
Who put you in charge anyway?
I'm sorry, but you're a doctor of what exactly?
Wasn't even booked in. The rest of you, tickets in advance. He just turned up out of the blue. Where from?
I'm just travelling. I'm a traveller, that's all.
Like an immigrant. Who were you talking to? Before you got on board, you were talking to someone. Who's that?
Just Donna, just my friend.
And
What were you saying to her?
hasn't even told us his name.
He is, though, Doctor. You've been loving this.
Oh, Jethro, not you.
No, but ever since all the troubles started, you've been loving it.
It has to be said, you do seem to have a certain glee.
All right, I'm interested. Yes, I can't help it, because whatever's inside her is brand new, and that's fascinating.
What, you wanted this to happen? No. And you were talking to her.
All on your own before all the trouble, right at the front. You were talking to that Sky woman, the two of you together. I saw you.
Well, we all did.
And you went into the cabin.
What were you saying to her?
I was just talking.
Saying what?
You called us humans like you're not one of us.
That's what he said.
And the wiring. He went into that panel and opened up the wiring.
That was after.
But how did you know what to do?
Because I'm clever.
And it almost cost him his life. And it's like, okay, how about not me this time? They clearly people didn't like when I did that last time, so how about Belinda? They'll be more amenable to listening to Belinda rather than me. Maybe not, that was just something that stood out.
Well, also in Midnight, I mean, the companion wasn't even there.
That's actually a good point. I didn't have a human last time. I do now. Maybe this will get us a better outcome than what happened last time. Interesting as well, just on the rewatch, like, how long was Alice in there on her own? Like, she had 15 days, and she's sitting on that box when they finally see her. Like, how long was she sitting on that box for? Just thinking, what do? I have this malevolent creature on my back, and I'm never going to see my child again. If you look at her face, just the moment they see her, the performance really is there from the first moment. And just the final thing on Rose Ayling-Ellis, because you both said you're not familiar with her. When RTD came back, and it was like, Russell's back, who's the new Doctor? It's Ncuti Gatwa, and there was a while before we had a companion announced officially, and her name came up a lot. You get this with the new Doctor, the new James Bond, or wherever. It gets rumoured in the press and people talking about this person, maybe this person, how about this person? Her name came up a lot as a companion.
Really?
Yes, a lot of people said it could be her, it should be her, I'd like it to be her.
That would be cool.
That would have been really cool. It'd be a first for sure.
I think, as she's shown in this episode, that had things gone a different way, she could have done it. I mean, she also presented at the, we had the Olympics and Paralympics last summer. She presented the Paralympics coverage, co-presented it over here, which again was a first. And it was interesting, they did throughout the course of the coverage show how a deaf person presents. They show kind of the specific setup. You have a person off camera, you have a second person, like a screen, with kind of closed captions and stuff. I won't go into the specifics here, but it was very interesting, and they did say that, like, you can do this. If the person's deaf, it doesn't mean, oh, well, how can they be a presenter? How can they, hear from the director or whatever in the truck? It's like, there are ways to do it, you just have to put the effort in. And she is kind of not like A-list famous, but she does have a level of fame, and Doctor Who, I think, will add to it. And one thing I really loved, final thing to say about this, is that not that anyone here, I think most of the fans would say this, but just because of the time we're in, and obviously we were talking about the state of America before we actually started recording this podcast, this could have so easily been like written off as like the DEI episode. Not just because of a deaf character, but there are a lot of people of colour in this episode. Like, to the point where I really noticed it, where there are scenes where I'm like, are there any white people in this? Because obviously the Doctor and Companion are now both people of colour themselves. Like, I'm like, there is a lot of melanin on screen, and that was all kind of incidental. And there's no reason why you can't have the characters in terms of a mix of gender and race, and in this case disability as well with the Alice character. So yeah, Jen, if we go to Just any observations for stuff that we'd have missed.
Speaking of disabilities, I noticed Trooper 2, who I believe his name was Harrow or Hanno, he had an artificial leg.
Oh, I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, his right leg was an artificial leg, which I thought they didn't focus on it, but I noticed it when he was walking. I was like, oh.
Hanno is a woman, so.
Okay, well, the gentleman with the shaved head, Trooper 2.
The one who seconds Cassio's mutiny.
Oh,
right.
Kai Saba.
That was Kai. Okay, but he had an artificial leg. I don't know if that was CGI or if that's the actor, but I thought it was interesting. I've noticed, especially with the 15th Doctor, that they keep throwing in a lot of pop songs. So I was like, why is suddenly Britney Spears in this episode?
I think the answer is Disney money.
Apparently that wasn't the first time they've used that song either, but the last time it wasn't with Ncuti, it was a couple of Doctors ago.
Christopher Eccleston, I think.
Was it?
Was it Eccleston? Way back to Eccleston?
Yeah, I think it was the End of the World episode. Where they play a classic Earth song, and I think it's Toxic by Britney Spears. If I'm remembering right, I'm just going off memory. I could be mistaken.
But in particular, they've been using a lot of pop songs, or at least references to pop songs in this new bit of Who, and I'm like, okay. It was interesting that they just had the perfect military, spacesuits to merge in with the military guys when they got out. Going back to Midnight for a second, since this is a correct tie-in, I was re-looking up the wiki page for it. Interesting little tidbits for you guys. The episode actually featured David Troughton, who is the son of the second Doctor, and then also the director was Alice Troughton, no relation, who went on to direct episodes of Merlin. And Colin Morgan, who played Merlin in Merlin, is in that episode before he did Merlin. So he actually got the part on Merlin from being in this episode.
Yeah, he's Jeffro. He's the kid.
I was like, wait, is that Colin? Holy crap! So I thought it was really cool. And of course, like I said, it was a bottle episode. And Leslie Sharp, she's amazing. The only other two things I've seen her in, sadly, I'm sure she's more, you know her more, Shane, than we do. But I know her from Hell. She was in that. And she was in The Full Monty. She was in The Full Monty.
Yeah, she's one of those respected actors over here. I'm actually just looking it up now because she was in. I'm almost certain she was in a cop TV show, kind of almost a cop drama, almost like a buddy cop drama, and it was her and Saran Jones who played the TARDIS in The Doctor's Wife. Yeah, Scott and Bailey, it was called. It was like an ITV, very just generic network television, solving crimes, and it's always the person and person, that kind of cop show. Yes, she worked with Saran Jones. She's an actor who you just see in stuff and is always
yeah, it's like, hey, that person. Yeah, it's one of those actors. It's just you just shoot the face, but just that scene in particular where she's repeating everybody is just absolute pure cinema. I adore it, and it's probably one of her best scenes ever, in my opinion. I also liked again Shayla. She was amazing, and she was a good commander. In my opinion, she wasn't overly strict. I felt she was believable as a commander, and the fact that Cassio ended up coming in and saying, "You are out of line," I mean, that was totally in character. It made sense. Kaylin played it perfectly. I think it was great. I'll also tie back to Midnight and saying that at the end of Midnight, I cried, and at the end of this episode, The Well, I cried. At the end of Midnight, it was when Sky and the hostess gal flew out the airlock. And then in here, it was when Sky fell. Shaya, I keep wanting to say Shayla. Shaya fell into the pit. It was cliche. Yes, he should have won. But her sacrificing herself is very military, and I was appreciative of it. Yes, it was kind of like Aliens when the two soldiers ended up staying behind and blowing themselves up. It was very similar to that, but just her, and it was, and they kept bringing up that she was a great shot, which was a nice little tidbit.
The scene of her death and the characterization in terms of just what the narrative of that is, zero complaints. Brilliantly done. Again,
having the words shown in their outfits, it just was there. That was really cool. I think that was great, and they didn't make a big deal out of it. It was like, here, we have these devices that will show words for deaf people. The mention that Alice made that, well, all nurses are supposed to know sign. Why don't you know sign?
Well, I think someone said it's against the law.
Yeah, Alice said that. The mentions of that Earth that doesn't no longer exist. that this has become an alternate timeline. They kept bringing that up, which obviously that's going to tie into the over arc of this particular series, but just seeing their reactions like, what? What do you mean Earth doesn't exist anymore? It wasn't overly done. It felt genuine, the way that both of them were reacting to it. I think it was good. And altogether, I still think Ncuti and Verada are a good pairing. I think they work well together. I didn't even catch, because I'm rewatching Andor right now to get ready for season 2, and she's in Andor season 1.
Yeah, it's the spring of Verada setting.
Yeah, so that was a cool little tidbit. Overall, it was great. They did stuff, but not overly do a lot of stuff, and it felt natural. I guess overarching, everything felt, except for they just showed up in the perfect suits. But other than that, yeah, I mean, I loved it, and all those little tidbits kind of thrown in together. Normally, I would have never caught that 2 had an artificial leg, except that when he turned a certain way, and I saw him walk, I'm like, oh, that's cool. And again, they didn't make a huge deal out of it.
Was anything else you wanted to mention?
Just a couple of things. One thing, because you mentioned it earlier, Shane, the English don't solve things with guns, but when the English bring out their guns, crack shots.
And historically, we do quite a lot.
Well, yeah, but now.
Maybe not anymore.
And that's what we see, is Shia going, are you still built like we are? And if I aim 3 millimeters above her aorta, it's going to go through her and she's going to be okay. I loved that. But also, I've heard some complaints. I didn't mind seeing Mrs. Flood at the end of the episode. I'm totally intrigued by her showing up.
There's some speculation of who she is, but...
Oh, I've seen some of it. If we never found out, depending on how it was dealt with, I might just enjoy it too. You know, what if she's like some sort of version of... I think this is what my wife said. Maybe she's like a watcher, where she's just kind of observing things but not interacting with them or something. I'm enjoying it.
Well, I mean, if these are the last run of episodes for a while, we might not find out. There is every possibility that might be the case. There have been complaints from some on this. It really depends what happens with this.
Yeah.
I'm kind of worried that some people build it up in their head too much, so they'll be just disappointed no matter what. Okay, so some things I've noticed. We start the episode basically the end of the last episode. Like the end of the last episode, they get in the TARDIS and we start the well. And I think that's the same at the start of Lux. I think we went straight from the Robot Revolution into Lux. We've gone straight from Lux into the Robot Revolution. We were starting with trying to get unsuccessfully trying to get Belinda home. Noticing the Doctor getting increasingly frustrated. We haven't really seen that from this Doctor much. Like, just getting angrily bangs the console of the TARDIS because he can't get back to...
And on the flip side, Belinda's getting more used to being around him.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, we saw that a lot in Lux, and that has definitely continued. You know, there's a slightly jokey line of life with you. So you haven't actually known him for that long. And she says at one point, I barely know him. But what I like is, and this is to piggyback a point you've made, Jen, the whole Get Belinda Home thing, it was the hashtag that was around so much. Russell kept pushing it quite a bit. I don't think it subsumed these episodes, though. It's there, and it's in the background, but it's not like this is something part of the issue, I think, with an extended universe and stuff. So much is about Easter eggs and what might happen and what we're building to that you forget you have to actually entertain us now with what you're showing us right now. And it's very much, it's like they focused on writing good episodes. And yeah, we'll drop a little bit about what's coming in the future, a little bit about we can't get Belinda home, a little bit about we're rebounding the TARDIS, a little bit about the Vindicator, a little bit about the human race. What the fuck's that? Like, we're getting that, but that's not... If you removed all that shit, this episode's tremendous anyway. And that's... Russell's got that, so far at least, has gotten that balance right, where I think certain other franchises and IP are not. They're focusing too much on mystery and what's going to happen and what's coming in the future. So far, at least we haven't done that, which is good. So a couple of people pointing this out online. Belinda may not have slept at any point since we've been introduced to her. She was at hospital, busy day, went home, was in bed, abducted by aliens before she could go to sleep in the Robot Revolution, had that adventure on Belinda Chandraland, got in the TARDIS, couldn't get back home, they go into Lux, they have the adventure with Mr. Ringting, they go back in the TARDIS, we start this episode, and then bang, we go straight out again, and then you have the well episode.
True, she hasn't had a chance to relax at all.
Yeah, I think there may be a chance for her to do that next week, because I don't believe we'll be seeing her next week.
I do have a question that my wife and I both kind of brought up at the same time. And I don't know if there's even an answer for it. They can't get back to what is it, May the 25th or whatever.
Yeah, May 24th, yeah, which is the date of episode 7.
Haven't tried going the day before or the day after.
That is a point. Can you get close? Get within a week or something? I mean, possibly not. Maybe that's something that we'll get some further insight on in future weeks. But yeah, it's a fair question. The line when the doctor gives the promise that's like, oh god, well, this isn't happening then, of like, says, I will meet your mum and dad, and I'll sing with your dad, and he says like, your mum can whistle at my behind. This is very much we know who our doctor is, and we're going to write specifically for this doctor. This isn't a line that Russell would have given David Tennant's doctor.
No,
because in the early promotion for this, one of the promo stills was from this episode, Ncuti in the suit. And let's just say there was a lot of attention being paid to a particular part of his anatomy.
I did notice how tight it was, yes.
Yes. So that's very much Russell is now, playing with the idea of the specific actor he has playing this character. Which is fine, by the way, no problem with that. The whole, like, Donna taking the piss out of David Tennant being quite skinny. That's when you're used to your actor now. You're right for your actor as much as for your character. They, as always in Doctor Who, filmed in a quarry, but they actually is set in a quarry. They said, yeah, we film in quarries obviously all the time. Doctor Who's been doing that for decades. But the actual setting itself was a quarry because it's a planet that's been stripped bare, that's been mined. So literally a quarry, you don't have to do anything to it. You just have a standard quarry. I like, again, the implication of 400,000 years in the future. Midnight that we saw with the 10th Doctor has now just been stripped bare. Literally bare. Like, we are 400,000 years in the future, resource extraction has not changed in the slightest.
Yeah.
And it almost felt that in some ways this episode is one of those consequences. If you are going to strip this planet, there are consequences for doing so.
That's been a theme all across the New Who, especially as environmentalism, especially with Moffat. He had a lot of that. The fact that Davies is now doing it is interesting. And I understand why, because it became a factor in the episode relating to the previous episode that it's referring to. And the fact that it's taken this long for it to be mined, it took 400,000 years. That tells you just how many stones were on that place.
The whole surface of the planet was diamonds.
Diamonds, and specifically in Midnight, he was going to see a waterfall of sapphires. Yeah. So it wasn't just diamonds on that planet.
Although the professor did point out they're not really sapphires.
They're not really sapphires. You never see it because they kept it within the shuttle most of the episode. But the fact that it took that long for it to mine all that out is impressive, but still detrimental.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, Chibnall Dad did address this as well. Not always successfully, but yeah, I mean, all three of these showrunners have. It's definitely been something that they are all concerned with. One of the things, and I just noticed this because he said this a week ago. Ross said a week ago about the Doctor and how he writes the Doctor, is that the Doctor generally shows up anywhere, and that's like they own the place. So I think of the moment when they push open the door and Alice is behind the door. We don't know who's behind the door at this moment, but at that moment it's Cassio and Shea who are at the head, but they're leading, guns kind of drawn, and the Doctor kind of pushes past them both. As in, I will take care of this. I will open the door. That's very Doctor behaviour. As is always the case, the writing and the performance of the Doctor has gotten better because they're just more used to it now. They're more fluent in their language. One thing, and Rick, you'll be best placed to maybe speak about this. But how old is Sharon now?
13.
She's probably not. It's 13 now, so she'd probably be fine. But I did think watching this probably isn't the easiest watch for young kids. Like, I imagine you know better than me.
I often forget that Doctor Who is supposed to be a kids show. I don't think this would be, too scary for them. I think it's too wordy for them. When Sharon was younger, she would not have made it through this episode because it would have been, as she always put it, too much talking. And I think that the concepts of what's happening are up until, the whole thing being the invisible, is there something there or not? I think that would lose most younger kids.
Yeah, because they prefer show, not tell.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
I hadn't actually thought of it that way, but now that you mention it, yeah, I don't think this works as a kid show at all.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting point. It was just the moments when we first see just that brief glimpse, and then you get that big sound cue that I was like, I wonder how a 7-8-year-old would be with
They wouldn't notice that.
And to be, every kid is different.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Not all the same. But yeah, I thought that was something that stood out. And final, just a little observation. I'm sure you're probably getting them from Disney Plus as well. But now when you watch the episode on BBC iPlayer, you get the pre-credit sequence, and then you get the credits. And the credits begin, and in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you have an option to skip intro. I know this is a regular thing on streaming now. This is new here for Doctor Who. And anyone who, upon the beginning of the Doctor Who credits, is clicking on skip intro, as far as I'm concerned, should be banned from watching the show permanently.
Oh, it's sacrilege.
Yeah!
For sure.
Fuck those people. I never do that.
Never, ever.
With some shows I do. With the opening credits of Doctor Who, I'm not having this. I'm not having a bar of this. I saw it and I was offended.
Yeah. I mean, there are a few shows that I don't skip the credits, but Doctor Who's one of them. Good Omens is another. I love that intro. Yeah.
But I saw that and I was just like, how dare you? How dare you, BBC? How dare you even offer this to people? I saw it for like the first episode, Rubber Revolution. I was just like, what the fuck is this? You people are taking a piss. I know it's a general thing, and I'm sure on Disney Plus it's there all the time.
It is. It's on everything now.
For what it's worth, I even skip Star Trek intros now, so.
Wow.
Those are my observations. So, Jen, if we come to your episode MVP, please.
It's a tie. First being Rose, and the other one being Kaylin. I think both of them were amazing in their own right, for the reasons we've already talked about. So I think it's a tie for me, for the two of them.
And it's interesting with the Shea character that she probably is is actually a good kind of profile in leadership, where she's firm, good presence, but she seems to be driven by a desire to serve, where other characters seem to be driven by desires for more selfish or more egocentric reasons. And she doesn't seem to be driven by that. And as we saw, she's willing to sacrifice her life to save other people. So, Rick, who's your MVP?
Keelan doing just amazing. That character could have been such a throwaway, could have been a very stereotypical, because we've seen the I don't believe who you say you are commander in a million Doctor Who episodes. Granted, she had the writing there, but still, the way that she played Shea totally stole every scene she was in, as I said earlier, is a character we knew her for 40 minutes, and I'm really sad we'll never see that character again, although, it's Doctor Who, it's science fiction, who knows. But I really enjoyed her performance, the way she inhabited that character, the way she made it real, and not just a cardboard cutout of a military martinet. It's easy to say, Ncuti or Varada, but it's their job to give a fantastic performance every week. I'm not saying that discounts it, but it's just like when somebody in the supporting cast really shines like Keelan did, I've got to give it to her.
Mine's also a tie. The reason why it's a tie, because I think it has to be a tie, because it's the two scriptwriters.
I almost did that.
Yeah.
I did too.
Along with most favourite part, I really struggled to single out an MVP, and in the end I've given you two. Sharma Angel Wolfall and Russell T Davies. I didn't know the spoiler. I'm so glad I didn't. The spoiler was, it's a Midnight sequel. Apparently a lot of people were spoiled and were very annoyed they were spoiled. They were like, I'd have liked this so much more if I hadn't been. The moment where where Keelan Dunn says, the entire surface of this planet was once made of diamonds, and I was like, because that was the moment of, that's why Russell was saying make sure you watch as soon as.
Yeah, well, for me it was when they were mentioning the radiation, because I somehow remembered that, because that's why they had to take the shuttle in midnight, is because they couldn't be outside. But
you can't be outdoors. And the interesting thing about this monster that Russell's created is that the monster does kill people, but most of the killing, he kills by having others kill for them. He basically plays into all the worst parts of humanity. Paranoia is mentioned twice in the dialogue. It plays in our suspicion and our paranoia and our resentment and maybe even our self-loathing, and then how we project that onto other people and lets us destroy ourselves. At one point, when Cassio is killed, when Shea basically kills Cassio, and Shea's like, I had no choice, but the Doctor's not happy with that. So this is what it turns us into. This is what it does to us. You can see there's so many similarities with Midnight. Everyone's getting more irritated with each other as they get more scared. There's a lot more people almost talking over each other. It's one line, another line, another line, another line, another line. The pace grows, the heart rate grows. In a weird way, it was scary because it was in a spacious room. It was indoors.
And it was dealing with human nature and what we do when we're threatened.
Yes, and I think that's one thing Russell does very well. Not even just in Doctor Who. I'm expecting to see some of this in his next thing that he's working on for Channel 4. He's very good at somehow isolating the worst sides of people. And for someone who's generally, in his public pronouncement, so upbeat and bouncy and enthusiastic, he's very good at somehow, like, the parts of ourselves we don't like to show and that we like to hide. He's good at shining a spotlight on them. He does that. I mean, this is a continuation of him doing that in Midnight. And it reminded me, I mean, the Doctor said last time I encountered it played games, like, it laughed. And I thought of these gods that Russell's writing, like, maybe this is part of the Pantheon, maybe not.
There's speculation that it's become part of the Pantheon, which is kind of a rewrite of the creature, but I'm fine with it.
But it's another god playing a cruel game, which is what the Toymaker did, and what Maestro did, and what Lux Imperator did. Like, they don't just straight up kill you. They like to really, really fuck with you. And almost destroy you mentally more than anything else. I think, co-written, of course, I think this is Russell's best script for Doctor Who. Before I would have said Midnight, I think this might be even better. Partly because it's very difficult to build on something classic you've written. In fact, everything says, don't do that, leave it alone. I just remember how I felt while watching it. I have not been more wrapped by a Doctor Who episode since. I'm struggling. It might even be Midnight. Like, I've seen lots of good Doctor Who since then. It's not like everything's been shit, but this was, as I'm watching this, I'm like, okay, I'm watching something special. Like, this is one of the best episodes of TV I've seen this year, and leads me to Sharma Angel Woeful. This is co-written, obviously, by her. It's co-written, so it's not all her credit her, but this might be the best debut script anyone's ever submitted for the show. This is her first Doctor Who episode. This isn't the first thing she's written for TV, but she's a relatively inexperienced writer. If you go online, she recently did an interview with the BBC, I think their writer's room page, about her writer's journey. And she met Russell at kind of a theatre workshop like 10 years ago.
Oh, she did theatre. Okay, got it.
Yeah, she's come through theatre, but she has done a little bit of TV, but not much. I think she had like 3 or 4 episodes of television produced, and this is easily the biggest thing she's ever done. I remember when I saw the script writers for this series and thinking, looking her up, and oh great, you've got a black woman writing this episode. She's from Manchester, but I was kind of thinking, not in a negative way, but Russell's not gambling, but you're giving someone a big opportunity here. You clearly see something in her, and that's it. They came to her. Like, she didn't submit anything for them. They came to her and asked her if she was interested. But it is, you're kind of swinging for the fences. This could easily have gone wrong. And I think it helps that they worked clearly together on this, but I understand from as much as I can manage to gather so far, Russell took focus more on the Midnight stuff, and she was more on the Alice stuff. But let's take nothing away from her. I don't think she's that old either. I think she might be in her early 30s. Like, this is an incredible contribution for your first thing in Doctor Who. It deserves to be held up. There was some disappointment online. She's not in this week's Doctor Who Unleashed talking about the script. And there has been some talk about how much was she involved, really? There have been some people trying to slightly maybe take some credit away from her. And unless they say so specifically, none of us know exactly what the division of labour was. But the fact is, there are 2 names on the script. So I have to give them both all the flowers. I think this is the best Russell has done. And Sharma Angel Woeful. I mean, seriously, like, whatever she's writing next, and apparently she has got something in production, but she won't say what it is. Whatever she's writing next, I will be there. She's now someone I'll be paying attention to.
Yeah, there's a lot of TV shows that are just cranking out that have such horrible writing at Disney. And it's nice to see good writing again. And this is a good highlight, and whenever, I think you're right, I think when people mention the best episodes of the year of any TV show, this will definitely be noted.
Yeah, I think it's tremendous work. And in fact, Stephen Moffat is kind of breaking Habit of a Lifetime, and he's sometimes posting on Twitter, as I will still be calling it. He said, posted this 2 days ago, don't go online, don't listen to anyone, don't read anything anywhere, just brace yourself for a classic. Blink's long day may just be over. I think he's happy about that. I think he's happy because ultimately he's still a fan. And I think this episode is in that pantheon. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's better than Blink. It's nowhere near Blink. Like, whatever. But when you're at the greatest episodes of this show, and particularly since it's come back, Blink is obviously always mentioned, Heaven Sent is mentioned, Midnight sometimes mentioned. This is on that list. Where it is on that list, that's subjective, and that's its own podcast. But this is on.
We need to wait 20 years to see if we're still talking about it like the others. So
I think we will be.
Yeah, I know I definitely will be.
And let me just clarify something. What you've been talking about made me think about something, is that my complaining about it being too much aliens may just be because I'm an old fart, and I've been around long enough to see too many homages to aliens. That may just be a me thing. I'm just kind of like, yay, you remember it, but how about we just kind of go on?
Oh, also, Rick, let's not forget, you gave this an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I only knocked off 1 point for it.
Yeah, you gave this 8 out of 10, and obviously it's important, and one of the things we pride ourselves on in this podcast is that we do try and look at all sides and try and drill down on stuff, what we like, what we don't like, why. And obviously we should always, and we'll always intend to be critical, but when something's good, I have no problem with saying that was fucking good. And I definitely believe that the praise should be as loud as the criticism.
Yes, absolutely.
And I have no problem with lavishing this episode with praise because it fully warrants it, it's fully deserved it, it's fully earned it. And when you get not just good Doctor Who, good TV, but when we get good Doctor Who, it's definitely something worth fully leaning into. And I'm very happy to lean into the work of everyone, because RTD and Sharma Ranger Wolf are my MVPs, but my god, no one's shit in this. Everyone is working at, even the tiny supporting characters, everyone's working at such a good level. I think Ncuti's great. We've barely mentioned him. I think he's tremendous in this episode. I think Rida Seto is tremendous in this episode. You've mentioned some of the supporting other actors as well. I think Amanda Brutch does a great job with the direction. There's a great overhead shot at one point of all of them that lays out where they are in proximity to each other. Part of the reason why we did the segment on Rose Ayling-Ellis and disability was because I really wanted to have her as my MVP and didn't, but I wanted to make sure we properly spoke about her. I think her performance is one of the best guest performances this show's ever had. Just as a guest star, one episode. You never know, maybe we'll see her again. But just stunning work. Everyone is operating at a high level. And it's been 3 from 3 so far.
Oh, yeah. It's been an awesome season so far.
Wonderful. And obviously we hope that we're not going out on this series. But if we are going out on this series, so far we're going out with a massive bang in style.
Oh, yeah.
At the top. Very much look what we can fucking do with this show. I have so far... I'm worried that now people are going to compare future episodes of the series to The Well. Oh, this wasn't as good as The Well. Oh, The Well was better. And it's like, judge them on its merits. But I'm thoroughly enjoying Doctor Who. I'm not just enjoying Doctor Who back. I'm enjoying it because so far it's been really good. And it's almost as if Russell needed a year to get back into this rhythm. Because I don't think his first episode was bad. It was just okay. This has been some high quality Doctor Who. And we're very lucky to be watching it so far.
It's not really a negative thing, but it's like, my wife and I have been like, could you imagine if Jodie had gotten this kind of writing?
Yeah.
Right?
You're right. No, it's a fair point, because I think as well she would have fit very well in Russell's style. Russell's style of writing, I think, would have worked for her really well. I would love her to get an anniversary episode written by Russell.
Oh, hell yeah.
I just think that would fit. Not just better writing, I think him specifically.
I'd love to see Jodie and Ncuti playing off each other. That would be fucking amazing.
And potentially also have David or Matt or, anybody who really...
If they call Tennant, he'll show up. But I do think Jodie and Ncuti in particular, those two, I see the vision, Rick. I think those two could work together great. So if you have any thoughts on what we've just spoken about, you can email us at analysingdoctorwho@gmail.com. It's analysing spelt with an S. And we are across social media at analysingdw. So Rick, Jen, thank you for both being here.
Thank you for having me on.
Same.
And thank you for listening. We'll be back next week to analyse Lucky Day. Until next time. Our logo is courtesy of Scott Mattison. His work can be found at planetrisecreative.com and on Twitter at planetrise. Our theme tune is by Mike Mould. We can be reached at analysingdoctorwho@gmail.com and on Twitter at Analysing DW.